So I'm sitting with Victor Sims, and there was an issue that I wanted to address with Victor. He and his team actually run into issues when they want to communicate transparently about the technology that they have developed here at WDS, World Development Systems. So there are two things in this. So Victor, because your devices are supporting balance within people, the result can actually be that issues can be healed, but it's not possible to say that in any of your literature or your communication with people. I just wanted to come into that and try to understand why we can't communicate transparently about the actual efficacy that your design has once it's implemented in your technology. What sort of barriers do you face, you and your team face, as you begin to quote unquote market the technology that you've developed?
I think it probably all starts with consciousness, to be fair. I don't think in science there is currently a widespread understanding of how consciousness affects the human body and how consciousness is present in everything. I think in science it appears to be, having said that, there are lots of experiments out there that are being done that the experimental results appear to change when people try to influence it with their consciousness.
Well, so, I mean, we know in science the observer is a definite factor in the outcome of any experimentation. And I've done a number of interviews with some very accomplished scientists, mainstream scientists, and I always pose the question to them, are you able with the currently existing tools within science to in some way measure or quantify consciousness? And all of them say, maybe we're on the verge, but at this moment, no, we can't. And so your technology, in fact, incorporates consciousness into the design of it. So if I'm imagining if you wanted to go for FDA or approval of other bodies that govern healing devices, essentially they don't have the capability to test for the efficacy of what you say your device does in an empirical way.
I think that sums it up really, because in the in conversations that we've had, and we've sought conversation and help and dialogue with some of these agencies, and to be honest, they just laugh. I mean, literally, laughing, rolling about. In fact, when we say, consciousness is this and consciousness is that, and they just don't have a grasp on it, and it's not within their remit, and they can only test things or they can only advise within the parameters of what they're doing. I mean, ultimately, these agencies are trying to protect people.
Of course. I mean, I think they're well intended in terms of their desire to make sure they're not quackery sort of things out there that people are paying a lot of money for that don't work.
That's right. And so their remit, and they're following the remit to the best that they can. But I guess because the information on consciousness and how it can be used and how it affects the body and how it's a part of everything, that just really isn't in mainstream science. So the equipment and systems that we're developing are outside the testing capability or even the understanding of most people who try to monitor and offer certification for various different products. So it's outside their understanding. Therefore, we're always up against how do we explain resonance and sympathetic resonance, and the answer tends to be, well, we don't understand that, but if you can prove empirically that what you say is true for every single product and every single facet of every single product, then prove it empirically, then a certification can be issued. But for a small company, and most inventors garage inventors, which I consider myself probably a garage inventor or garage scientist, even to make it even more peculiar. We work with a fairly limited budget, and although we can prove by anecdotal evidence.
So you have any number of people who could be testimonials for this, but my understanding is you're also very limited in your ability to publish something that could be called a testimonial about the outcome of the using of your technology.
Yes, I mean the testimonials have been collected in for years, but because the testimonial typically, we'll just have a typical example of a testimonial. Testimonial would be, oh, we've used this product or used this technology, and we feel so much better, and the pain in our shoulder has gone, and the headaches we used to have no longer are there. So at that point, the testimonials imply that there's been some sort of pathological change, and although that's our desired effect that we'd like to achieve by balancing the energy in the body, it's actually the body itself that's done that work. But the problem is then when that person has described a pain or a symptom that they have, and now that symptom has been balanced with the addition of energy balancing from our equipment, as they write about it, of course they're going to write about it in medical terms. Mm-hmm. They've had this particular pathology or this particular diagnosis from the doctor, and now that thing's cleared up. So when they're very excited to talk about it, because people are very, very keen to talk about their illness and the fact that it's been fixed.
From their perspective, it's been healed.
Yeah.
But from your communication, you can't quantify it in that way.
Yeah, and we're not allowed to use the testimonials. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's I guess fair enough, but it's unfortunate.
So this is two lines of potential marketing to prove the efficacy of your product that are not available to you.
That's right.
So essentially, you're having to communicate in veiled terms about what your technology is able to do. And so within your technology, you're essentially looking at that and writing formulas. You're designing formulas that can bring homeostasis back into the system, allowing the system itself to self-repair.
Yes, and I would say, if people don't like the word formula, because that sort of smacks of a pharmaceutical formula, we'll just say program. Because we are writing programs in order to instruct, because it's information, to instruct the body's consciousness in a very special way, so that it does the work. Because it's only the body itself can do the healing. It's that innate process that we've had, which is an awesome process. The body is just the most amazing thing for self-healing, given the right stimulus. And this is information coming in. It reminds the body, hang on, is there something out of balance there? Let's go and look for this biofilm, maybe with a virus or a bacteria stuck underneath it that's trying to explode and take over. The idea of a virus or bacteria sitting under a biofilm is that it covers itself, in a sort of protective invisibility cloak, to use an analogy, and it multiplies until such a time it's big enough to take on the rest of the system.
Real Trojan horse.
Yeah, and then the body, the body's immune system is suddenly exposed to this massive amount of virus or bacteria that's been building up over a period of time. The cloak comes off and the body can't cope with it.
Bringing this back to the point, just to understand that when you market your products, you have very strict conditions under which you're able to communicate about the product and the efficacy of the product.
Yes.
At the same time, you have tens of thousands of people worldwide who've had treatments using your products. And you're also not able to share their results because of the conditions around what you are able to say and not say. So
that is true. It's a tricky path, but it doesn't deter me because ultimately, this is the future of how we're going to have healing sessions or treatments. I mean, I don't like the word treatment, but if we just think of the future, this is such an obvious way. I mean, the thing is, it's obvious. That's the stupid thing. It's so obvious to do it this way. This is my opinion, of course, but it seems that any other form of allopathic medicine, which has been around for they call it traditional medicine.
Right.
It's only been around 150 years. My idea of traditional medicine is 4,000 years ago.
Right.
And the last 4,000 years, the Eastern mythologies, the Eastern way of doing things, to me makes much more sense, because it's inclusive of consciousness, it's inclusive of spirituality, it's inclusive of emotions, it's inclusive of all those different things. So to me, it's a more complete system. The allopathic side is, well, we don't recognise consciousness, therefore it doesn't exist,
well,
therefore we're going to treat you with a drug.
A Band-Aid effect. Let's put a Band-Aid over the symptoms rather than actually addressing the underlying cause.
Yeah, and symptoms, I think, is symptoms are what people present.
Right.
So a medical practitioner is looking at these symptoms, and he has a specific list of things that he's allowed to use because of that presenting symptom.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily deal, and probably in most cases does not deal with the cause. We're not allowed to treat cancer. There's a law against treating cancer. It's like, hang on a minute. If you've got something that can treat cancer, why don't you use it? Because surely that makes sense.
It's an interesting time that we're living, and I'm hoping that we're seeing a shift now, and I appreciate your incorporation of consciousness into your technology, and I appreciate you sharing with us the barriers that you have in actually communicating the efficacy of your products. So thank you for sitting down with us and illuminating one of the obstacles in your ability to get your technology to more people at this time.
It's been great. Thanks for having this discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you.